Hello and welcome to episode number 62 of the Cheesesteaks and Controllers podcast, presented by Fox, PHL, The Gambler, 102.5 FM, 1480 AM, and iHeart Radio. This is your esports and gaming insider, Jason Fanelli, and folks, it has been a crazy week for all things esports. We have two big-time tournaments that we're going to talk about later today. We're going to get into Gamescom and the announcements that came from that, including my 10 personal favorites of the entire week. And then finally, we'll get into something fun, something themed, something you may have heard me talk about with Sean Brace on the radio, but, you know, I like to be a little suspenseful, so you'll just have to wait and see if you didn't hear what I had to say with him. Without further ado, let's not waste any time and get right into the 6 in 60 seconds. The LA Gladiators win the Overwatch League Countdown Cup over the Chengdu Hunters. The playoff play-ins begin September the 4th, and your Philadelphia Fusion need 2 wins in a row on September 5th to qualify for those playoffs. The Atlanta FaZe win their first ever Call of Duty World title, becoming 2021 COD League champs after beating Toronto Ultra on Sunday. Team 1 defeats Team Empire to win the Rainbow Six Siege Mexico Major, Brazil's second straight major championship. Meanwhile, Gamescom Opening Night Live 2021 brings 40 new announcements, including the first looks at a rebooted Saints Row, Marvel Midnight Suns, and many more. Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl adds Cat Dog and April O'Neil from the Teenage Mutant Turtles to its roster as part of the Future Games show on Thursday. And finally, Blizzard has announced that the in-game hero McCree, named after one of the developers implicated in the harassment lawsuit, will have his name changed in the near future. Those are your 6 in 60 seconds. And as always, these 6 in 60 seconds are brought to you by the sponsor of Cheesesteaks and Controllers, Ghost Shaver. The Ghost Shaver is designed to feel like it's an extension of your arm, allowing any user to reach anywhere on the head, face, or body. Its precision cutting system gives you a close and smooth shave every single time, thanks to 5 different rotary flex action super thin blades and a patented handle design that fits into the palm of your hand precisely. Easy to use, easy to clean. Go to ghostshaver.com and check it out and get yours. That's Ghost Shaver, a shave above the rest. Yes, those are your 6 in 60 seconds for the week. Let me tell you how happy I was to see Cat Dog being included into Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl. Kind of knew he was coming in from that silhouette sort of tease, sort of leak thing that came out right after the game was first announced. But seeing him in action, or it in action, I guess, hims. I'm not sure what you would, them. Maybe them. Seeing them in action was very, very cool. And April O'Neil, what a week for April O'Neil. First, she's announced to be playable in that new Shredder's Revenge, and now she's playable in Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl. Good for her. I feel like she's been one of the most underrated heroines in any of the shows that I watched ever. So, good on her. Glad to see that she is getting the exposure she deserves, and I hope that there is more coming her way in the near future. But let's talk about those 2 big tournaments that happened over the weekend, starting with the Overwatch League and the Countdown Cup. Now, if I said to you last week that I thought the LA Gladiators were going to win the whole thing, you'd have thought I was nuts. Now, Will English was on the show last week, and I did talk about how I had some faith in the LA Gladiators, but I had faith in them winning 1 match. Just 1. I didn't think they were going to go all the way. I only thought they were going to win 1 single match, and that was the bet for the Portillo's hot dogs. Thank you again, Will English, for bringing those to me eventually. So, when the Countdown Cup starts, and LA defeats Chengdu 3-2 in the first round, the bet's already won. Playing with house money from here on out. Can't believe it, right? Atlanta beats Seoul 3-1, then you have LA versus Atlanta in the winners finals, which is an absolute mind blow. Down the bottom, Chengdu dispatches Seoul, dispatches Atlanta when Atlanta also loses to LA. And then you have a rematch, LA versus Chengdu in the final, which LA wins 4-3. LA Gladiators playing out of their minds, winning the Countdown Cup in dramatic fashion. What a great series this was. If you have not watched it, I highly recommend that you check it out on the Overwatch League YouTube channel's VOD, the video on demand. So this match, Chengdu came out hot in the first control map, winning 2-0. Then LA takes 3 straight maps, Temple of Anumis, Numbani, and Route 66. They look like they're cruising. They're going to win 4-1. They're going to take this Countdown Cup and run all the way to the playoffs. But then Chengdu gets a little fire underneath them. And they win 2 more maps. They take Ilios and they take Kings Row. And it comes down to a final deciding map in Havana. And the LA Gladiators pull it out by the skin of their teeth. Birdring and Space playing out of their minds for the LA Gladiators, along with Kevster, Skewed, and the rest of the team. Birdring easily the MVP of the Countdown Cup, if you ask me. That guy, whew, what an absolute monster in damage he is. Kind of wish he was a Philadelphia Fusion player, but what are you going to do? But no, this was a very, very cool win for a team that was supposed to do very well. At the beginning of the season, they were very, very hyped up, but they had a lot of trouble getting their feet under them and getting it in. And to get to the last in-season tournament of the year and cruise to a victory puts them in prime position in the standings going into the actual playoffs. Now, the playoff structure was announced earlier today, Thursday. They told us everything we need to know about what's going on in these playoffs this year. Now, they did unfortunately say that because of the rising cases in Delta variant and not wanting to put anyone out or put anyone, and we'll get into a full preview next week. They will be playing in Hawaii. They will not be playing in Dallas and LA as initially projected, which is disappointing, but I can understand it. And the way the matchups look is this. We have, for the play-ins, in the Western region, we have the Paris Eternal playing the Washington Justice, and the Boston Uprising playing the Toronto Defiant. The winner of Paris-Washington faces San Francisco, while the winner of Boston and Toronto faces Houston. And the winners of those 2 matches will advance to the playoffs. They do not have to play each other, but they will advance to the playoffs. In the Eastern region, it's a little bit simpler. The Hangzhou Spark take on your Philadelphia Fusion. Winner plays the Seoul Dynasty. Winner of that is in. Which means, as I said in the 6 and 60 seconds, that if your Philadelphia Fusion are going to make the Final 8 and make those playoffs in Hawaii, they are going to have to win 2 straight matches on September the 5th at 5 a.m. Eastern Time, and then immediately after at 6:30 Eastern Time. And that, as I said with Sean Brace on the radio, is a task that may prove too daunting. I want to be wrong about that, but I am not entirely sure that that's going to look good for your Fusion. But we will do a full preview next week as to who I think is going to qualify from each region, where that's going to play out. Then we will have a bracket seeding. We'll be able to know, I'll be able to tell you who I think is going to be in the playoffs, and then we'll predict the entire thing. We'll keep the play-ins for next week. Once the bracket comes out, then we'll talk about the full seeding and playoff bracket, and then we'll pick our winners from there. I believe it's double elimination. I don't think it's single elimination, so there will be a little bit of deviation in brackets, I'm sure. I'm sure Will English would like to come back on and argue with me. But we will get into all that next week. I will have the playoff play-in preview for you, as well as who I think is going to qualify, where I think they're going to be seeded, and how that's going to all play out. The 5 teams that are in right now, as the seeding looks, number 1 is Shanghai, number 2 is Dallas, number 3 is Chengdu, number 4 is the LA Gladiators, and number 5 is the Atlanta Reign. So of the teams that are fighting for those 3 positions, they're fighting for 6, 7, and 8. Somehow Shanghai, Dallas, and Chengdu get to pick their opponents once that happens, but again, we will get into that at a later date. But for now, congratulations to the LA Gladiators for winning the Countdown Cup, sneaking their way into the top 3 in the West, not having to play in for a spot in the playoffs like the San Francisco Shock now have to do. And how ironic is it that LA knocks their biggest rival into the play-ins by surging to a Countdown Cup victory that nobody expected. Gotta love the Overwatch League, man. Got to love it. But I also want to give credit where credit is due. That was not the only tournament this week worth talking about. I do want to get into the Call of Duty League and give my congratulations to the Atlanta FaZe, who, FaZe Clan, for those that don't know, has basically made their mark in the Call of Duty League. Before when they were an up-and-coming esports league, when esports were still sort of new in the world, the Atlanta FaZe FaZe Clan were making their mark in Call of Duty. However, despite getting famous in Call of Duty, despite, building their brand on the back of the Call of Duty World League and now Call of Duty League, they never won the big one. They never had the opportunity to take the big one for themselves until 2021. In 2021, the Atlanta FaZe cruised through the top of the bracket, cruised through every single team that stood in their way, and took the 2021 Call of Duty League Championships in convincing fashion. So the way this bracket played out last weekend, in round one of the winners, first of all, your buys were the Atlanta FaZe at number 1 overall and Toronto at number 2 overall. 3 then played 6, New York and Chicago, and 4 played 5, Dallas and Minnesota. Subliners, New York beat Chicago 3-2. Dallas beat Minnesota 3-0, which then knocked them down into the elimination side, where the Florida Mutineers waited for Chicago, and the LA Thieves went in for Minnesota. Chicago and Minnesota beat Florida and LA and moved to the next round, where they waited for the next round of winners side losers to go head down. In winners round 2, the Atlanta FaZe 3-0'd the New York Subliners, knocking them into the lower bracket. And Dallas upset Toronto, the second overall seed, 3-2, knocking Toronto into the lower bracket. Toronto then dispatched Chicago Optic 3-1. Minnesota also beat New York 3-1, sending them home. Eliminations round 3 was Toronto 3, Minnesota 2. The winners finals was a 3-0 sweep for the Atlanta FaZe. Ultra then sent Dallas home 3-2 in the elimination finals, guaranteeing a brand new champion in the Call of Duty League 2021. And with a count of 5-3, Atlanta FaZe were your champions. Toronto took the first hardpoint map, 250-175. Atlanta then took the next 3 maps, 6-5 on Search and Destroy, 3-0 in Control, 250-78 in Hardpoint. Toronto then came back in Search and Destroy again, 6-2. Atlanta won 3-2 in Control in the next map. Toronto 6-5 in the next Search and Destroy map, which had one of the best Search and Destroy rounds I've ever seen from a Toronto player named Cammy, who killed all 4 players on the Call of Duty side, or on the Atlanta side, by himself. Was nuts. And then 250-147 Hardpoint sealed the deal for the Atlanta FaZe to become the 2021 League champions. Congratulations to them. Congratulations to Simp, who was named the overall 2021 MVP. It was the finals MVP, the championships MVP went to Abizi, who also for the Atlanta FaZe, who played one of the craziest finals I've ever seen. Deserved that MVP as well. Just a great year for the league, and another tumultuous, not everything live sort of situation. They made the best of it and pulled off another great league, another great season. Where it goes from here, still left to be seen, with all of the controversy now with the lawsuit from the state of California affecting Activision Blizzard. We don't know where that's going to go from here on out. But I do hope that the league comes back, maybe expands a little bit. I know Cloud9 was talking about they wanted to be in the league, and there's a city of Philadelphia who would really like a team. So give me that Philly Independence or that Philly Liberty or something like that. I would be happy to cover that team for the Call of Duty League in the future. But congratulations to the FaZe. Congratulations to the LA Gladiators, as I mentioned earlier, in the Overwatch League. And I'm looking forward to the Overwatch League playoffs and whatever the Call of Duty League has coming up for the 2022 season. All right, welcome back to Cheesesteaks and Controllers. Moving right along here to the second segment of our show. Let's talk about Gamescom Opening Night Live 2021, led by Jeff Keighley. Once again, a full showcase of games coming to us. 48 total announcements, including the half-hour pre-show and the 2-hour main show that kicked off at 1:30 Eastern on Wednesday of this week. With 48 announcements, I would be crazy if I wanted to go through all of them. So I'm going to pick 10. One from the pre-show. Not that the other ones from the pre-show weren't good, but there's one in particular that sticks out to me. And 9 from the main show that I would suggest you go and check out now that the show has ended. The one from the pre-show is the King of Fighters 15 getting a full blowout trailer with, the different ways to fight, some fight mechanics, the confirmation of a 39-man roster when the game first comes out, the release date, February 18, a couple more characters that we did not know would be in the game, K-Dash and Ash Crimson and Hydern and a new original character, a couple of interesting faces there. Still 7 slots, I believe, with characters that we don't know who they are. I think that's what the pundits, the fighting game pundits that I follow have said. So there's still plenty of room for speculation in that regard. I think that Shenwu is going to be a lock because Ash Crimson is back. That's a little inside baseball for the King of Fighters fans that are listening to this right now. But if you liked King of Fighters in the past and you've kind of fallen out on it, or you want to go find out what King of Fighters is all about, first, go play King of Fighters 14. And second, watch this trailer and get ready for February 18th when that game comes out. Now, moving into the main show, the first 4 announcements in this show were absolute knockouts. Just haymaker after haymaker after haymaker. First, there was the reintroduction, the reboot of Saints Row, which was once an over-the-top, overtly silly a Grand Theft Auto sort of competitor that kind of turned into like this crazy superhero game, really, really off the wall, over the top. They are rebooting it, taking it back a notch. Like, it's kind of hard to top being the president of the United States of America with superpowers, as you were in Saints Row 4. But they're going to try and dial it back a little bit and get into that grace area between Saints Row 2, which was more of a pure, let's say, Grand Theft Auto clone, in quotes, and Saints Row 3, where things started to get upside down and silly. They're going to try and meet that middle ground, find that middle area, and get a game out that everybody can enjoy. And I'm all about that. Saints Row is a franchise that deserves to be played. It's, the original games are very, very good. Again, I would recommend playing 3 and 4. Going back to 2, maybe a little too dated, as good as that game is. But if you want to give it a shot, I would not stop you. It's definitely worth it. And I like what I saw from the first trailer. Now, I would like the next trailer to be gameplay, especially since the game is scheduled to come out February 25th. But the fact that it exists is good enough for me for now. The next one is Marvel Midnight Suns. So there was a rumor that 2K and Firaxis, who make games like XCOM for the strategic mind, were making a Marvel XCOM game. This was our confirmation. Marvel Midnight Suns, which is following a very deep-cut sort of Marvel Comics story with a girl named Lilith and Cthulhu, who was basically Cthulhu, and all this other like Eldritch-style stuff. And then you got the Marvel superheroes and these crazy get-ups, Blades in the game, Wolverine. Looked really cool. Again, didn't see a lot of gameplay in this trailer, basically cinematics, just a confirmation that it exists. But we will see our first gameplay on September 1, so we don't have to wait very long to see what's going on in this game. And I believe they said March 2021 was the targeted release, or 2022, excuse me. So we don't have to wait that much longer to play it. Good things all around there. Really liked what I saw. The third one up was Call of Duty Vanguard, which got like an 8 to 10 minute extended gameplay demo. Really, really cool stuff. Back to World War II, playing a Russian sniper named Polina, female Russian sniper, just going in and killing some bad dudes and doing all that stuff. It will be interesting to play that theater. It's a theater I think that in the World War II history games is sort of ignored outside of like Company of Heroes. Company of Heroes 2 really focused on that theater. So it'll be cool to see Call of Duty tackle that. Also, Sledgehammer Games, I like what they did with World War II, so I'm glad they're going back to it. And that writing team, the team of writers, the narrative team, is a really strong group of people. So I'm very interested to see what they have going on there. And then the fourth announcement of the main show, 5th on this list, is Halo Infinite. So Saints Row, Marvel, Call of Duty Vanguard, Halo Infinite, right out of the jump. Halo Infinite got a new gameplay trailer, a little bit of story elements, some multiplayer aspects. Now, it did come out that co-op campaign multiplayer will not be available in the base game, which sucks, but The campaign will be there for single player. The multiplayer itself will be there. And the game's coming out December the 8th of 2021, which I can't be mad at. That means I have Halo before the end of the year, and a month after Call of Duty, which gives it plenty of time to breathe. I'm very, very okay with that. They also released a Halo-themed Elite Series 2 controller, which drool, and then a Halo Infinite-themed Xbox Series X, which drool out of the other side of my mouth. That console is one of the most beautiful consoles I've ever seen in my entire life, and it pains me that I will not be able to make it my own, just because I can't afford $550 right now as much as I want to. Just not going to happen for me. But if you can get it, I highly recommend you do, because it's a fantastic looking console. Makes Halo sounds. The thing on the top is blue instead of green. Has a very cool design with like stars on it. Very, very awesome. Go check that out. Next one on my list was a couple of games down. And again, I don't want to discount the games in between it. But the next one that I was really into was Shredder's Revenge, that retro Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles beat-em-up game from .emu. As I mentioned, April O'Neil was announced as playable for this game too. Looks like she's borrowing some moves from Street Fighter Alpha. She's got, like, someone analyzed the trailer. She's got Akuma's dive kick and some of Karen's elbow moves and one of Chun-Li's, like, charge rising kicks. Very interesting source material there. I didn't realize April O'Neil was a hardcore fighting gamer, but I will take it. But yeah, she looked very, very cool in that trailer. That definitely caught my eye as well. Next one here is a game you might not have heard of yet, but it's been an open beta on the Xbox and the PC for a while. And if you need your Halo fix, this game was called The Best Halo Game Since Halo Reach by Polygon.com, and it's not a Halo game. It's called Splitgate. And it's basically Halo's multiplayer with portals. And people have been raving about it to the point where it crashed the servers of people that were in the beta. They found so many people who wanted to play this game that it crashed their servers. If that's not a sign that people are really liking what they're seeing, I don't know what is. So Splitgate had a nice trailer, introduced Season 0, which is like their season leading up to their big launch, their last kind of testing. It's an open beta now, so you can download it and try it out for yourself. Very, very cool looking game. I do want to get some matches in soon and figure out how that game goes. But if you need something to hold you over and you're sick of playing the Master Chief Collection, try Splitgate. It may be exactly what you're looking for that, to scratch that itch. Next up was a game that I'm still not quite sure where I am as far as how excited I am for it, but the prospect of it is very, very cool. And that was called DokeV by Pearl Abyss. Now, Pearl Abyss has known for Black Desert Online and the upcoming Crimson Desert, very medieval fantasy sort of things. This is completely different. This is like Pokemon meets Splatoon meets Ninjala, a gung-ho game. Very, very colorful, very bright, very off-the-wall, sort of like real-time fighting with these creatures that are helping you, and then you can capture them, and this good K-pop song is playing while the trailer's going on. It was cool. It was a cool trailer that really caught me by surprise. I really did not expect anything like that. A, from Pearl Abyss, and B, at all. But apparently this is they're South Korean developers, want to try their hand at a Pokemon-style adventure. And based on that first gameplay trailer, I should say, it looks really cool. It's not the first trailer for the game. It first was announced in 2019 and sat dormant on Twitter for a while. But people know what they're looking at now. The only problem is the official press release said that it's coming out sometime after 2022. So that could be January or February of 23. We could be waiting a very long time. But it sounds like a game that's worth waiting for. So definitely keep that on your radar as well. Next up for me is Horizon Forbidden West. Always good to see more of Aloy. Always good to see more of that world. One of my most highly anticipated games at the moment is Horizon Forbidden West. Unfortunately, it was pushed to the beginning of 2022. I believe 220 or 228 was the date for that, 220. So that is disappointing. But I don't care. I mean, it'll be my most highly anticipated game, or one of my most highly anticipated games coming soon until I'm playing it, and then it'll be one of my favorite games. I'm assuming it'll be one of my favorite games out there, because Horizon Zero Dawn was incredible, and I'm really, really interested to know how they're going to continue that story up in the Forbidden Wests. So 2 more announcements I want to talk about here. The first one is Fall Guys Season 5. Now, I have needed a reason. I have been looking for a reason to get back into Fall Guys Season 5, or Fall Guys at all. And Season 5 seems like it's going to be doing that for me. Now, right now, the season is a jungle theme. There's a lot of, like, wildlife and Tarzan-style looking costumes and stuff like that. But it seems that Fall Guys is going to be partnering with Disney for 4 costumes based on the classic animated Disney film, The Jungle Book. Mowgli, Shere Khan, King Louie, who is first, and my personal favorite, Baloo, will be joining Fall Guys. And that just makes me want to play more Fall Guys, win some crowns, and then play as Baloo in Fall Guys for the rest of my life. I love that idea. I miss those beans, and I think I'm going to try this out for myself. You've got me, I think, Fall Guys. I think you've got me back with The Jungle Book. We'll just see if I can make time and stop playing Fortnite for more than 5 seconds. And then finally, the last one going in order, my top 10 going in order of the show, is Sifu. I love the way Sifu looks. Every time I see it, it looks better and better to me. So Sifu is made by a developer named Slow Clap, who made Absolver for the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox. It was like a free-roaming, hand-to-hand combat sort of fighting game. This one doubles down on that, but instead of being a free-roaming, little more open world, this is a narrative-based kung fu game that very much reeks of the kung fu movie, that genre that is a very popular genre. I am a fan of kung fu movies. This looks like a game that'll be right up my alley, right in that wheelhouse, does Sifu. So if you've not seen that one yet, Sifu, check that out. Slow Clap did good work with Absolver. This looks like it could be the next evolution of that structure, and I want to see more of it, and I want to play it really bad, but I am willing to wait for it. So Sifu, definitely a great announcement as well. Some of the other highlights that you should go check out from Opening Night Live. Nobody Saves the World from Drinkbox, who made Guacamelee. That's one you should definitely keep an eye on. Cult with a Lamb from Devolver Digital was an interesting little game. Midnight Fight Express, made by one person over there in Poland. Love that. Century Age of Ashes, multiplayer dragon riding combat. Love to see that. Lego Star Wars, The Skywalker Saga, the entire 9 movies in Star Wars, but in Lego. This game has been anticipated for a very long time. Should be coming early 2022. Vampire the Masquerade Blood Hunt, the vampire battle royale that I had an opportunity to check out back in June, is going into early access September 7th, so that's a game to look forward to. And many, many more. Many more games that I just can't get into here. And that's just one show. Future Game Show had more stuff today. They announced the Cat Dog and April O'Neil for the Nickelodeon All-Stars Brawl that I mentioned. They showed a horror game called Madison that I want no parts of because it looks like a really scary game, and I don't really do those very well. IGN had an Indies thing where Blasphemous, the great platformer set in like a weird, like, religious painting sort of aesthetic, but everything's all really weird and dark, and very, very cool game there, is getting a sequel in 2023 and new DLC in December. New free DLC in December, I might add. So that was a cool announcement there. Tons of stuff to check out between the 3 shows, and many more coming this weekend as Gamescom Digital continues. Definitely take a look at the news that's coming out. Check out the trailers of the games that you think you're interested in. Get yourself ready for whatever game it is that you are looking for. And honestly, the big winners of Gamescom right now, if I had to pick 2 big winners, they are April O'Neil, for the reasons we talked about earlier. She's in 2 new games coming out, finally coming out a little of her shell a little bit, and something that I think is long overdue. She's always been a very cool character, and now she's starting to, smack some folks around. I dig it. I hope she gets more of a chance to beat people up in other games in the future. And then the other winner of Gamescom 2022, or 2021, excuse me, is February 2022. And the reason I say that is because February 2022, specifically from February 18th to the end of the month is stacked. Absolutely stacked. In fact, you can go into January 21st to the end of February is absolutely filled with crazy amounts of games. It starts January 21st with Elden Ring, the anchor of the Summer Game Fest show with Jeff Keighley, and one of the most highly anticipated games ever since it was announced at E3 2019. Pokemon Legends Arceus, where Pokemon's going Breath of the Wild, is the next week, January 28th. Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six Extraction, that takes Rainbow Six Siege and adds aliens, is sometime in January as well. And then in February, starting on the 17th and going to the 25th, King of Fighters 15 on February 17. Horizon Forbidden West on February 18. There you go. February 22nd, both Destiny 2, The Witch Queen, and Sifu. February 25, Saints Row. And then still to be determined in February, but coming in February, Blood Bowl 3, Evil Dead, Vampire the Masquerade, Swan Song. And then if you want to get into March, Marvel Midnight Suns, and for me, WWE 2K22. That is a lot for the first quarter of the year, and it's just the first quarter. 2022 is already shaping up to be one of the most prolific release years in video game industry history, coming off of, 2 years of record performance thanks to people being stuck in their homes. We could be seeing a type of growth in video games unprecedented. Another, golden age of video games coming up starting in 2022 with this absolutely bonkers 3 months, January, February, March. And then if we want to get a little bit further, April 28th is Stalker 2, which is high on my list. And that's really all we know other than November 11 Starfield of 2022. But even that is waiting in the wings, as long as it doesn't get delayed out of that release date. But if Gamescom told us anything, it's that 2022 is going to take our wallets and burn them, but give us games in the process. So be ready for that. Go and check out the Gamescom live stream. If you want to go to twitch.tv/jfan64, I was an official co-streamer, so you can check out my video on demand of that. Had a great time streaming that. It wasn't available for the first hour and a half or so. It was just the stream on my stream, but then I was able to jump in and talk about everything that we saw at the end. Hopefully, I can do more of those things in the future. I really enjoyed being a part of that official co-streamer group. So, 2022, a lot of games coming out, lots to look forward to. So I guess I just ask one simple question. What's on tap for you? All right, and finally tonight, let's talk football, ladies and gentlemen. It is almost football season. The NFL season is almost upon us. The NCAA football season is even closer. And I wanted to talk about that tonight, but I didn't want to get into, the history of Madden football, which I think I did last year, talk about, NCAA football, which I also talked about before. I want to do something a little more fun, a little more exciting, a little more creative than just talk about these were football games that you played at one point in your life. So, I have decided to take from one of my favorite activities, fantasy football, and draft what I think to be the greatest lineup of video game football players in history. I've gone through all the Maddens. I've gone through all the 2Ks. I've gone through Tecmo Bowl. I've gone through all of the NFL games I could find and picked a roster of a quarterback, 2 running backs, 3 wide receivers, a tight end, a flex player, a defense, and a kicker. And I'm going to bring them to you right now in the first ever Cheesesteaks and Controllers Fantasy Football Draft. That's right. Welcome to the first ever CNC Fantasy Football Draft, where we take the best players in video games ever and put them on a crazy all-star team that no one would ever be able to beat ever. If I was able to make this team in Madden Ultimate Team, I would be your Madden champion from here to eternity. So first we're going to draft as you should draft in a fantasy football draft. We're going to start with the running back. And we're going to do that because running back, video game football, I shouldn't really have to say any more than that. that is the sound. The pick is in. It's Bo Jackson. Bo Jackson, LA Raiders, Tecmo Bowl, the single best video game athlete of all time outside of, Pablo Sanchez from Backyard Baseball. We're strictly talking football here. Can't be beat. One of the greatest video game football athletes of all time. You win every match you play. The Raiders had to be banned from multiple Tecmo Bowl sessions, I imagine, because he was just so overpowered. Only really had one counter, which we'll get into. But I don't think it's any stretch of the imagination to say that Bo Jackson was the best video game athlete to ever grace a console, and still to this day is unbeatable in the world of Tecmo Bowl for the people that are still playing that game all these years later. But, not to be outdone, the second pick is in, and the second pick is also a running back, because again, you should make sure you have powerful running backs up top, if you can. And that is Christian Okoye of the Kansas City Chiefs, also from Tecmo, and in this case, Tecmo Super Bowl. Because where Bo Jackson could outrun you for days, back and forth, you could never catch him, Christian Okoye, if you caught him, you weren't tackling him. The boy just did not go down for anyone, ever, and made the Chiefs an absolute dynamite team in Tecmo Super Bowl, particularly on the original Nintendo. I have very fond memories of playing Tecmo Super Bowl on my NES back in the day. Over and over again, I would play exhibitions, I would simulate seasons, I wore that game out. Loved it to death. And Christian Okoye, I remember one time playing against the Chiefs with my beloved Eagles and being like, why is this guy so overpowered? What is happening? Why can't I play? So, Christian Okoye, my second running back on this super-powered fantasy football, video game football team. As for pick number 3, the pick is indeed in, and we are going to wide receiver this time. And unfortunately, I am not capable of doing sit-ups in my driveway like this man is. This is Terrell Owens from the Philadelphia Eagles, NFL 2K5, cover boy of that game, and definitely got the cover boy bump. That's for sure. You could throw it just in his direction. It could be over his head. It could be at his feet. It could be to his left, to his right. He'd have to dive forward. He'd have to dive out of bounds. Didn't matter. He caught it every time. He caught that ball every single time. And it didn't hurt that Donovan McNabb in that game was one of the most overpowered quarterbacks ever. Not my quarterback in this draft. Tease. But he was one of the most overpowered quarterbacks in video games ever, too. So you had Terrell Owens and Donovan McNabb, and you could just crush any defense in that game. Back and forth, up and down, pillar to post. Nobody could touch him. I remember beating teams like 115-0 back in those days. The best Philadelphia Eagles squad in any video game ever. And that includes the Super Bowl team, because unlike the Super Bowl team, the team that won the Super Bowl in 2018, at the beginning of the season, they were supposed to be good, but not that good. In 2K5, which would have been the 2004 season, when they won the NFC Championship, they were supposed to be dynamite. And in this game, they were dynamite. So, Terrell Owens, my wide receiver, pick number 3 of the fantasy video game football draft. But, you hear that sound. Number 4, the pick is in. Sticking with the wide receivers, give me Randy Moss from the Minnesota Vikings, NFL 2K3. If you thought Terrell Owens got the cover boy bump, oh mama, did Randy Moss get it and then some. The thing with Randy Moss is he dominated for, 4 games, probably 2K, 2K1, 2K2, 2K3. I played these games on the Dreamcast. 2K2 on the Dreamcast was my big one. And I would just pass it to Randy Moss and like a hook and ladder behind, a yard behind the line or 2 yards behind the line, and I would just stiff arm everybody all the way to the touchdown. Every single play. Every one of my drives in that game was one play to Randy Moss. There was no beating him. Just like Terrell Owens in 2K5, Randy Moss in 2K3 was absolutely unstoppable. And could you imagine a game with 2K5 Terrell Owens and Randy Moss 2K3 lining up on the same side? There's no beating that. There's no beating that. This is the greatest team I've ever drafted, and it's all a bunch of players who are virtual and not real. That's just how these things work. But Randy Moss, Minnesota Vikings, 2K3 is my second wide receiver, and there's that sound again. Let's talk about my third wide receiver, pick number 5. This one's a little more recent, but another cover boy. We're talking Megatron, Calvin Johnson, Madden NFL 2015. Just another absolute. Now this one, he was tall, right? So you could throw that ball 20 yards over his head. He was catching that ball. He was jumping up for it. Acrobatic, fast, just an absolute monster player. Always put him on the Eagles as soon as possible whenever I played Madden 15, and just dominated. Because, I would also put, like, Tom Brady as the quarterback, but I'm not going to talk about that. Calvin Johnson, easily the best player in that game, best wide receiver in that game by a long shot. Definitely deserving of the cover that he had. Just like Barry Sanders, another famous Lion before him in 98, 99, I want to say. Loved playing with him, loved throwing the ball to him and watch him catch it in all these crazy ways. Got a big pop out of me every single time. Loved Calvin Johnson. So pick number 5. So that's Calvin Johnson. So my running backs and my wide receivers are decided. Just recap here as we're halfway through. Bo Jackson and Christian Okoye as my running backs. Terrell Owens, Randy Moss, and Calvin Johnson as my wide receivers. But with pick number 6, we have to ask ourselves, who's throwing to them? Who's handing the ball off? And with the sound, pick number 6 is in. Ladies and gentlemen, it is not QB Eagles from Tecmo Bowl. It is not. It is Michael Vick, Atlanta Falcons, Madden NFL 2004. One of the most overpowered quarterbacks in video game history. He could run for 50 yards. He could throw it for 80 without fail. Any ball was a deep ball and catchable for his wideouts. One of the most lopsided Madden games I've ever played against just the computer in an exhibition in the AI was Madden 2004. Michael Vick's Falcons versus, who were they playing? The Lions, I think. Was Detroit? Yeah, it might have been Detroit. It's been a while. That final score was like 165-0. Every time I touched the ball, I scored. Just an absolute drubbing of the Detroit Lions. Could not stop scoring. Michael Vick had like 25 touchdowns. Just absolutely absurd numbers in this game. Just brings home the fact that he was one of the most dominant quarterbacks to ever be in video game football. And he's going to be my squad. I love QB Eagles, don't get me wrong. I love Randall. I will always love Randall. But Michael Vick, just a better video game quarterback, if you ask me. So he is my guy. He's the one that I choose. Next up at number 7, tight end. We're going to get into tight ends here. There were a couple of choices here. We'll get into the ones that I didn't choose. But for this one holds a bit of a soft spot in my heart, because of what I did in college playing Madden and like the ultimate team modes and the create your own team modes. This particular player is one that I always leaned on, always depended on. Was also a staple on my fantasy football league teams going up throughout the years in college and beyond. So with the 7th pick, my tight end, that is the sound. The pick is in. Hello, Antonio Gates, San Diego Chargers, Madden NFL 2007, 99 ranking for Antonio Gates in that game. And I loved throwing to him because he caught everything I threw to him. Just caught it and fell down for 10, 20 yards at a time. Whenever I needed some help underneath, he was always there. No matter what team I put him on, no matter what squad I put him on, no matter what quarterback I had throwing to him, he was always Mr. Dependable, and I will always hold a special place in my heart for virtual Antonio Gates. Tony Gonzalez, also 99, would have been a great pick here. Ron Gronkowski, also a 99, would have been a great pick here. But my personal affinity for Antonio Gates, both in fantasy football and in Madden, just bumps him up slightly. But any of those three could be perfect for this list. Gonzalez, Gronkowski, or Gates. Or Kelsey now, if you want to get modern, or George Kittle, one of the good players now. But if we're talking all-time Madden, for me, it's Gates in 07. Gates in 06 also was up there, but Gates in 07 is the one that really set the bar for me. as far as Madden was concerned. Loved playing with him. Loved it, loved it. Pick number 8, we're talking flex. Yes, I did put a flex on this squad because I wanted to get a place to put this person, to put this player, to recognize how much of a dominant force he was in the game that he was in. But the only place I felt comfortable put him was this flex position because I didn't want to give away the wide receiver position. I believe is what he normally played. Running back he could have been as well. Flex was the perfect place, there's the sound, for the 8th pick in this draft. My flex player, Devin Hester of the Chicago Bears, Madden NFL 2008. That 99 speed rating means he is taking every kickoff as close to the house as he can, and that's why he's on this team. This would be the spot where I would just rack up kickoff touchdowns and score and score and score if this was an actual fantasy football team. Devin Hester's 99 speed was a force to be reckoned with, and you could put him in any position. You could put him at running back, and he would, scamper for 15 yards a run. You could put him at wide receiver, and while his hands weren't the best, if he caught that ball, he was gone. And then, special teams speaks for itself. Kick return, punt return, off he goes. Devin Hester is my guy in the flex position, basically for special teams, but also for what he could add to the field as well. And I do specify Madden 08 because that's where the 99 speed was. I believe in 09 he was also very, very good, but 08 is the one that sticks out in my head for this list. 2 more picks now coming into number 9 on the list. We've gone through the quarterbacks, running backs, wide receivers, tight ends, and flex. Time to get into some specialty positions. I am going to start with the kicker because, I'm not really going to spend a whole lot of time on the kicker. Do we ever in fantasy football situations? So, play the sound. Pick number 9 is in with the 9th pick. My kicker is, because he was a 99 in Madden 2005, one of the only 99s in the game, Mike Vanderjagt from the Indianapolis Colts. Didn't really put a lot of thought into this one, I said, because he's a kicker. Why would I? But I looked up 99 ratings. Adam Vinatieri was the easy choice. I wanted somebody else. And I like Vanderjagt when he played for the Colts back in the day. So, Madden 2005, Mike Vanderjagt, you're my kicker, boy. I appreciate you. I like what you did on the field for that Peyton Manning team. I didn't like how that whole thing broke up, though. But always thought you were a great kicker back in my high school and college days. So you have made my team over the likes of Vinatieri or Justin Tucker now or something like that. Mike Vanderjagt, Madden 2005, welcome to the squad, my friend. And finally, pick number 10. Pick number 10 is the defense. And I left this one because this one really, I fought with this one a lot. There was a team that I thought was a shoo-in because they had 2 99 players on it. But then I thought about it, and I thought, is there a defense in any game that really dominated throughout the entire game if you weren't, really trying, or if you weren't picking a certain team? Was there one that could really run roughshod on every other team in the game without much effort? And if you pick a certain player, in this situation, yes, I found one. So, with the 10th pick, 10th and final pick in my virtual fantasy football draft, the CNC Fantasy Video Game Football Draft. Play the sound. The sound is in. Pick is in. Pick number 10 is the New York Giants defense from Tecmo Bowl. And I give you 2 letters as to the reason why. LT. Lawrence Taylor makes that defense. I said Bo Jackson was unstoppable with the exception of one counter. That counter is Lawrence Taylor. The man could tackle everybody. The man could chase down everybody. The man had no flaws in Tecmo Bowl. If you ran into Lawrence Taylor, you went down. Whether it was on your side of the field or theirs. If he caught you, you were sacked. If he was in the backfield, you were sacked. If he, tracked your running back, you lost yards. Maybe even fumbled the ball. No stopping LT. Now, the rest of the defense is pretty good too. But with such a dominating player like Lawrence Taylor in Tecmo Bowl, I had to put the old Giants defense from Tecmo Bowl on this list. Now, special notification, a special honorable mention would go to the Baltimore Ravens, I believe in 2005, when Ray Lewis was on the cover. Yes, because 06 was McNabb. 05, Ray Lewis was on the cover. They had 2 99 players in Ray Lewis, and I believe one of their linemen whose name eludes me at the moment. I don't think Ed Reed was a 99 on that team, but he was close. Just a stellar defense there, too, that I almost picked for this list. But LT pushed the needle up a little bit in favor of my hated division rival, New York Giants. Credit where it's due. Respect where it belongs. LT in Tecmo Bowl was nasty. And that is it. That is the Cheesesteaks and Controllers Fantasy Video Game Football Draft. I hope you agreed with my picks. If you did not, feel free to tell me what a loon I am on social media at Big Man Fanelli. Come visit my Twitch, twitch.tv/jfan64, and we could talk about the football, whether it's fantasy football or the players I picked here. Had a lot of fun bringing that list up. I thought it was a neat little idea. Thank you, Sean Brace, for the idea. It was quite a good one and got the creative juices flowing for a little while. And with that, we are at the end of episode number 62 of the Cheesesteaks and Controllers podcast, presented as always by Fox PHL The Gambler, 102.5 FM, 1480 AM, and iHeart Radio. I am Esports and Gaming Insider Jason Fanelli, and I hope that you have a fantastic weekend coming up, a even better week following it, and I will see you, if you're heading out to Summer Jam, the fighting game tournament, at the Crown Plaza in Cherry Hill this Saturday and Sunday. I will definitely see you there on Saturday. Going to go check out some of the hot fighting game tournament action there safely. I love Big E Gaming. I love the things that they do. Very excited to see what they got cooking up for us there. Tried to make something work, but didn't quite work out, so I got my media badge. We'll talk to them, and we'll get into NEC in November. So looking forward to that. If you listen to the show, you want to say hello, I'll be there. Feel free to say what's up. But with that, this is the end of episode 62. I thank you so much for listening. If your ears are hearing the last words here, I can't believe you've made it, but I appreciate that you did. Until next week, have a great one. Goodbye.